Hi everybody, Susan here, and welcome to the first episode, video, whatever, of my very first KnitLib read-along. Yay! It's really nice to have you here with me today. This video may or may not be long. We'll find out. Yeah, the whole point of this video is to basically spark some conversation about the book that we're all reading, which is, let me get it here, Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. Talia Hibbert. I am going to be catching you up on my thoughts, and because this video is like totally one-sided because you can't necessarily talk back to me in real time, I'm more just talking at your face. And so I'm going to be sharing my thoughts about this book, and my hope is that it's going to spark some discussion and stuff in the comments below. So I'm also going to be sharing this video excuse me, both on YouTube and on Instagram, on an Instagram TV thing on my feed. So I'm KnitLib on Instagram if you want to follow me over there. So there will be two different discussions happening, which is totally fine. If you want to take part in the discussion in the comments, go for it. If you don't, that's fine too. If you want to do your own like fun little video like this on Instagram or on YouTube talking about the book, do so and tag me in it and use the hashtag KnitLibReadAlong, and yeah, we can have a little bit of fun. So I'm going to apologize in advance for any kind of throat clearing that I'm doing. I'm going to try to edit a lot of it out, but this summer I have developed the a weird allergy grunt that I'm trying my best to mitigate by drinking a lot. So I have coffee here today. But occasionally I will clear my throat, and I apologize if that's distracting to you, and I also apologize for pointing it out because maybe it wouldn't have bothered you otherwise. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Okay, so we are reading Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, and this is a book that was published in 2019. Published in 2019. It is the first book of Talia Hibbert's newest series called The Brown Sisters. The second book is about, well, the main character Chloe. It's about her sister. I can't remember what it's called. Something Danny Brown. But anyway, this is the first book. It's introducing Chloe Brown, who is, I think, the middle child, the middle sister in the of the Brown sisters. She lives with a chronic illness. She is a person of color. She's Black, and she lives in London, somewhere. Who knows where? I don't think they really say. And after a sort of near-death experience that she has in the prologue of the book, so she almost gets hit by a car as she's walking down the street. She decides that how she has been living her life up until that point, she's in her like mid-20s, I guess, where she's just been so careful because of her chronic illness. She just decided, you know what? You know, you gotta get a life, because she realized that her obituary would be super depressing. And she decided, yeah, it's time to get a life and stop living so carefully. So she makes a list, and that first list is that she's going to move out of her family's house, and then she has a whole bunch of other things on her list, which is enjoy a drunken night out, ride a motorcycle, go camping, have meaningless and thoroughly enjoyable sex, and travel the world with nothing but a handbag, or nothing but hand luggage, and also do something bad. Yeah. So that's kind of the premise of the book as it sets itself up. For this video, we're going to be talking about the first 7 chapters. So if you're reading it as a paperback, like I am, that would be like the first 120 pages or so. But if you're reading it as an ebook or listening to it as an audiobook, that is the first 7 chapters. I really enjoyed the first 7 chapters, guys. I don't know if you did, but I'm really liking Talia Hibbert's like conversational style of writing, and also she has a great grasp of dialogue. I am a big stickler for writers that do written dialogue well, and it's believable. So when you can pick up on the sarcasm in the way the characters talk, or if you can like hear them in your head, that's a good sign of a good writer. I've read a lot of books where maybe the conversation is like, it almost feels like the Gilmore Girls effect, where you like people just can't possibly talk like that, like Lorelai Gilmore and Rory. Like nobody in real life talks like that ever. We're filled with little ums and like it's a lot of that. It's not this sharp, quick-witted stuff. So see, I'm demonstrating this fact very well right now. But I really enjoy the conversational styles in this, and especially as I'm reading it, I can visualize these characters talking. I did start listening to the book as well on audiobook, and even more so with the performer of that audiobook. She's really grasping the dialogue. It's translating really well to being performed by an actor. So that's really quite enjoyable. When the book kind of, after the prologue, it kind of opens with Chloe moving into an apartment, her first apartment, and she's not gotten off on the best foot when it comes to making good impressions. And the superintendent, which that's like total British speak, I think. Like when I think of the word superintendent, I think of The Simpsons, and what is his, like, Superintendent Charles? Superintendent something? I can't remember his name. But that's what I think of. I think of like some kind of administrative head or something, like some job that doesn't really mean anything. That's what I think about a superintendent. But in the context of what they're using it in the book, it's basically like a caretaker, a building manager. That's another word that, like, all the apartment buildings I lived in, they've always had not necessarily a landlord. There've been a landlord, but they've been off-site. There's always the building manager. So you have Redford, who's the superintendent, who, of course, is, this young man who has had a lot of things happen to him in his life, and he's an artist, so his apartment is his studio, and he's painting all the time. And again, I've never met like a super or whatever that's like that. Oh my god, I just made the connection. I need to drink more coffee. Superintendent and super. That's something I always hear on TV, where it's like, oh, you gotta call the super. And that's short for superintendent. Oh my gosh. Did anybody else just make that connection, or was that just me? Anyway. So I'm sorry, that was just super stupid. Oh my god. Yeah, Red seems like, and this is what I appreciate about good chick lit, that the introduction of the male characters, they don't seem to necessarily be assholes. Like, there's some romance I've read where, it's always like, oh, the deep and brooding you know, kind of Mr. Darcy character that is just like impersonable and rude and all of this stuff. And it's up to the job of the, you know, female character to break those barriers down or something, which is completely contrived. And so that's what I think about that. I like that Red's character is a little more well-rounded. We see his flaws a little bit coming out, especially with the trauma that has happened to him from his previous girlfriend, Pippa. I don't know exactly what happened, and I guess we'll find that out later in the book. But they kind of introduce that he's been through some stuff, which makes him not want to share his artwork with anybody, and it makes it very difficult for him to kind of connect with women in a way, I guess, because he's too afraid of getting hurt again. It's like, oh, you know, whatever. You've read this book up until this point, I'm thinking, or maybe you read the whole book and you're already leaps and bounds ahead of me because I'm reading slowly. My favorite part. So we have Chloe is in the apartment, and we're introduced to Red, who is the super of the apartment building. They're starting to get to know each other, and you see them like they've had little brief interactions where Chloe doesn't come off the best because all of her actions are coming out of context whenever he walks in and sees it. So if you imagine this as being a movie, then it's very easily to imagine this as a movie, hey? Like, you know, especially when she's pouring her entire thermos of tea into that old lady's mailbox as revenge for the old lady looking at all of her mail. I find that kind of funny, and totally something I wouldn't do. I'd think about doing it, but I actually wouldn't do it. So yeah, there's definitely those elements that could be moved into can be easily transferred into a movie and expanded upon. Speaking of which, a very, very movie-ready moment in this book so far was when Chloe climbed the tree to get to rescue the cat, which she eventually adopted as her own, called Smudge. When she goes up to that tree, did anybody else think about that movie with what is her name? Katherine Heigl and other guy. He was in Gladiator. Anyway, I don't remember the name of the movie, but there's that episode, oh my god, there's that scene where she's in her apartment and then her cat gets out of her apartment window while she's watching the dude across the courtyard get out of the shower, and she's just like, oh my gosh. Or no, the cat doesn't come out of the window. She's leaning out of the window and she falls out and gets stuck in the tree, and then he has to come and rescue her. That's kind of, I like that scene better in Get a Life, Chloe Brown, because you have, you know, the comedy of Chloe dressed all prim, jumping up, climbing up this tree, despite all of the, you know, despite whatever of her, the chronic illness that keeps her from moving, like doing a lot of extraneous activity like that. But she climbs up there anyway and gets this cat talking to the cat the entire time, and the cat's responding to her. And then when Red appears, I thought that was incredibly charming, but also the banter back and forth was really good. That's probably one of my favorite things about chick lit rom-com stuff. It's the banter back and forth of the arguing where it's like, oh yeah, they're totally gonna do it later. Like, yeah, they're totally gonna do it. So I really enjoyed that. I don't know if you guys felt the same way. Let me know. But I will say, I was taken by surprise by, I think, what is it, chapter 5? Is it chapter 5? Let me see. No, it's chapter 6. chapter 6, when Red is having that dream. So far in the book, it's been pretty tame, right? And then suddenly in chapter 6, let's just see. Okay, I'm gonna read you. So we have, Red is thinking about Chloe's bare calves because she was wearing a skirt. And I'm like, how nice is that? Thinking about someone's calves? I don't think I've ever... No, that's a lie. I've totally thought of people's calves. Yeah, okay. So it goes into this whole long thing of him daydreaming about how beautiful and how sexy Chloe is. And them feeling kind of, a little bit, not quite ashamed of it, but like a little embarrassed by it. And then it goes into, and I quote, "Apologies, warning, not safe for work, but I'm going to start reading now." Okay, all right. He squeezed the base of his shaft and felt an electric pulse of pleasure. His other hand moved to cup his heavy sack. Full and firm, tight against his palm. I get so, it's just so funny to me, and the language gets even a little bit more explicit, and it's just in such a sharp contrast to the rest of the book so far. And it made me, when I got to this point, I was laughing out loud because it just felt like it came from left field, which is not a bad thing. I like that kind of duality. And I like that you don't need to be reading completely pure erotica, that, sex is a normal thing. I think that's awesome. And using, the proper terms for stuff, but also throwing the word cunt around from time to time. That's one of my favorite words, actually. I love the word cunt. You may not know that about me. I'm probably gonna not be able to monetize this video because the language I'm using in it. Oh my god. But did anybody else, that whole part kind of take you off guard? Because it totally took me off guard. And then when he hears the knock on the door and it's Chloe on the door, at the door, that kind of shock back to reality, I kind of felt it too when that happened. So yeah, that's probably the most lasting impression I had from reading these chapters. I had something, I'm trying to think of, I've been going through the book and I've been earmarking, which is so bad. Even though I'm a librarian, I'm actually a very aggressive book user, in that I really, what's the word? I'm very aggressive and with my books, in that I will draw in them, I will mark them up, I will dog-ear things, I will crack the spine, I don't do that with library books, but I do that with my own books. I'm nicer to library books because they belong to everybody and they don't belong to me. But I do have this earmarked, and why do I have it there? I think it's when Chloe, in the book, Chloe's day job, she's self-employed. She does social media and website work and stuff for different clients, and she brokered kind of a deal with Red to get his art career kind of back up and moving. She would redesign his website and get his social media presence and everything going. And in exchange, he would help her out with the list that she made for getting a life. So on that list, like I said at the beginning, was ride a motorcycle. So she, when they go on the motorcycle, there's this really lovely, I really loved how free, she ended up becoming. She had to take off her glasses. She's sitting there on the back of this motorcycle, holding on to Red for dear life, and the way that when she's kind of scared and gripping onto him like an ironclad grip. The way he reaches over and squeezes her hand gently to reassure her that everything's okay. That you can see that level of trust building between them, which is really lovely. And I'm anticipating that'll only probably increase. Like, what's going to happen when they go camping? Because that's one of the things she asked him to do. There's going to be some fun camping things, I think. And a drunken night out, there's going to be some fun things there. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. If you've already read to that point, you're past that point, please don't tell me. Please don't tell us if we haven't gotten to that point yet. The other thing I really appreciated was when Chloe came in to look at his artwork, and in order to like make his website and everything, and he hadn't shown his artwork to anybody, and which I get. I have an art background, and while my studio practice isn't as active as it used to be, I can totally relate to that. It's like when you're in the middle of making things, especially if you do have an art practice that comes from, and all art comes from a personal place, like for sure. But if you're making something, and if you've encountered like really harsh criticisms about your work at some point, it takes a lot of courage to share it with other people. That would be the same for, like, I don't know, doing a podcast, doing a YouTube video like this, or I guess you're putting it out into the world, and so those kind of conversations about acceptance and confidence, but also the visual descriptions of art, talking about art, makes me wonder if Talia Hibbert, the author, has experience in the art world. I don't know. Maybe she just did a lot of research, but I found it was written quite well. What else? I was just remembering that one of the other things that reminded me of that Kristen Heigl movie, which is horrible. It's a horrible movie, but I've seen it like 15 times. It's a horrible movie. But there is, when Katherine Heigl, holy crap, when Katherine Heigl is staring out the window at her across the way neighbor, that's kind of what Chloe is doing in this book too. She just keeps staring at Red while he's painting because their windows are kind of adjacent to each other. So that's definitely similar. I wonder if those connections are deliberate, or if it's just a trope that, like, it's a romantic comedy trope. Maybe it's just a romantic comedy trope. What are your thoughts? I don't know. Yeah, so I'm going to continue reading this. I am reading slowly, and I'm really excited to know where everything is going to go. Chapter 7 kind of ends with, her asking if he would help her complete the rest of her list, and I think that's a good spot to stop. And now for the next week, we're going to read up until, what did I say? We're going to read up to, we're going to read up to chapter 15. So once you hit chapter 15, stop. And then we'll kind of catch up from there. I hope that the speed of like reading it this way, giving us like kind of little deadlines, but not saying, okay, you got to read this whole book in a week, because maybe some of you, I know all of us have lives. Some of our lives are busier than others. For me, I'm working full time now. I've taken the day off today, but working full time, I don't always have time to read as much as I'd like. I usually read before I go to bed, or I read in the bathtub, and if I read before I go to bed, I probably get like maybe 5 pages in, and then I'm sound asleep. But yeah, hopefully this kind of pacing is working for everybody. Are you enjoying Get a Life Chloe Brown so far. What have been your favorite parts so far? What have stuck out to you? I want to know. Are you getting inspired by the book? Is there, if you're a maker, which I'm assuming, if you're watching this, you're also a knitter, crocheter, maker of some kind. Is this book inspiring you to make anything? Like Chloe's outfits? Her little twee outfits with all the buttons? I really want to make a cardigan. I'm obsessed. I need to make cardigans. Grr! So that maybe that'll be my Get a Life Chloe Brown. It'll be finishing my Telegram cardigan by Becky Sorensen, who's soprano knits, because I'm still at the yoke increases. I haven't even separated for the sleeves yet. And I want a cardigan. Also, this color just does not compute. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on all of this. I hope you're enjoying the book. I hope that you're safe, that you're doing well, and that this whole thing is giving you a little bit of a reprieve from the daily grind, from your life, from everything. I hope that you're escaping reality just a little bit. We can't escape reality for too long. That's unhealthy. But we can take a break just to rejuvenate, take care of ourselves so that we are better and stronger for entering back into reality. Because we need strength, man. We need all the strength we can get. Yeah. So thank you for hanging out with me today. Happy reading, happy knitting, happy making, happy coffee drinking. Yeah, and we'll check in with you again next week. Keep being magic, friends. Bye.